Hey everyone, welcome to the investor.bet NRL round 27 betting trends preview. Final round of the regular season. We got some still spots to move around inside, potentially the top 4 and also the top 8. So some exciting games coming up. Few teams resting players. I'm going to go through everything you need to know before betting on these games in this video. We're going to break down the betting history, the trends, the stats of these teams, so you have all the information you need to know. Before we get into this week's games, though, I want to quickly recap last round. Taking a quick look at what happened in round 26. It started Thursday night. The Bulldogs comfortable 28-4 winners over the Panthers reserve side. Parramatta upset the Warriors over in New Zealand. The Roosters 40-10 after trailing 10-0 at halftime over the Storm in Melbourne. Canberra wrapped up the minor premiership at home against the Tigers 24-10. The Seagulls over the Dragons 40-24, back-to-back weeks for the Dragons conceding 40 points. Broncos went up to Townsville, beat the Cowboys 38-30. Then on Sunday, the Sharks kept themselves in the race for the top 4 with a 40-16 win over the Knights. And then the Dolphins kept themselves in the race for the top 8 with a 6-point win, 36-30 over the Titans. And Rabbitohs obviously have the bye, and they're the team that match up against the Roosters, who can beat the Rabbitohs, will get the 8th spot on the ladder going to finals. Looking at how the ladder currently stands, Raiders 2 games clear of the Storm, who are a game clear of the Bulldogs. And with the for and against, the Storm have it plus 228 compared to the Bulldogs at plus 138. With the games this weekend for these top 3 teams don't mean anything in terms of where they can move on the ladder, so you definitely want to keep that in mind. There is, though, the race for the 4th spot and the team that will travel out to Canberra in the first qualifying final. You have the Broncos, Sharks, and Warriors all tied on 34 points. If 2 of these teams lose and the other win, then obviously that team that wins their game will go through. Right now, Broncos are in pole position due to their plus 156 differential. Sharks at plus 91. So Warriors need both the Broncos and Sharks to lose. Sharks just need the Broncos to lose and them to win. If Broncos win their game against the Storm, then they'll get that 4th spot. And then you have the Panthers, Roosters in 7th and 8th, and the Dolphins, Seagulls on 9th and 10th. Now, as the Seagulls only have a plus 20 differential, they're out of the race. But if the Roosters are to lose to the Rabbitohs, then it sets up a big game for the Dolphins against the undermanned Canberra side as they're resting players, if they can force themselves into 8th on the ladder. If the Roosters win their game and the Panthers lose, the Panthers, who will then play the 5th place team, which would currently be the Sharks, in the first elimination final, and the Roosters would travel over to New Zealand if the Warriors stay in 6th spot. So a few things to play out. The betting overview of last week's games. Home team won 4 of the 8 games, and away teams covered the spread in 6 of the 8 games. There hasn't been many weeks this season where away teams have covered more games than the home sides. Overall in the year, 114 games the home teams covered, and only 82 times has the away side covered. Bulldogs against the Panthers and the Sharks against the Knights were the only 2 home teams to cover the spread last week. Favorites won 6 of the 8 games. The 2 underdogs to win outright were the Eels against the Warriors and the Roosters against the Storm. Both games on Friday night. Favorites covered the spread in 4 of the 8 games on the season. Underdogs are 105-91 against the spread. So it's the year of the home teams, the underdogs. 6 of the 8 games went over the total. It has been a big unders year. 105 games have gone under, only 91 have gone over. But it is this last few rounds of the season where we tend to see more games be higher scoring, go over the totals, as the defense can be that bit more lackluster. Now, getting into the games for this week, it starts Thursday night. Broncos against the Storm. The odds for this game open at $1.91 either side, and the total at 48.5. Since the lineups have come out, the Storm are into $1.65. The Broncos out to $2.24. So about a 3.5 point handicap in this game. Obviously, after the way the Storm played the second half last week against the Roosters, thought it was going to be very unlikely they were going to get players rested for this game. Jerome Hughes comes back as well for Melbourne, so you can understand the market shifting in their favor. They've also won 17 of the past 18 games against the Broncos and have won 12 of the past 13 away games versus Brisbane. Last time they met was only round 23 a few weeks ago. The Storm were $1.60 favourites at home and won that game 22-2. Obviously, injuries to Reynolds and Ezra Mam in that game were big factors. Broncos are going to be without both of them for this game. They're also without Shibasaki as well. So it's going to be a really tough matchup here for the Broncos. They're coming back from the game up in Townsville on Saturday. The Storm also have a one-day rest advantage. The Broncos, they're having no issue scoring points at the moment. Aside from the game against Melbourne, their last 5 games, they've scored at least 38 points in 4 of them, but they've also been conceding points at a high rate against not great attacking sides, like 30 against the Cowboys, 28 against the Dolphins, 22 against Parramatta in there as well. It's only been like the Rabbitohs and Knights where they've kept those teams to that 14 kind of point range. I'm expecting Melbourne to be winning this game with them bringing a fairly strong side up to Brisbane. And Brisbane somewhat don't look that strong on paper with Ben Hunt, Billy Walters in the halves going up against Hughes and Munster. I'd be very happy taking the 165 about the Melbourne Storm in this game, even as the market currently stands, particularly with Melbourne off a loss and their record against Brisbane as well historically. The thing that favors Brisbane, they're at home. They need a win to get the double chance in finals. So you got that playing into their hands. They've had a bit of off-field drama this week as well. But I just think the Storm should be able to get the job done. You've got 2 of the top 3 attacking sides in the competition. These are also the top 2 first half scoring sides. Melbourne score more than anyone in the first half. Brisbane ranks 2nd in first half points. So definitely keep that in mind, but they're also both fairly strong defensively, though the Storm are quite a bit stronger. Broncos are in the top half defensively, but the Storm are a top 2 defensive side in the competition. So I like the Storm to get the job done, keep their record going against Brisbane. They should just be that little bit too strong. And I'm not super worried about like Melbourne's second half against the Roosters last week. They've only lost 2 games now across their previous 13 games and were due that blowout loss going into finals, and I think they'll bounce back from it. They had a 20-point loss against the Dolphins earlier in the season, bounced back with a win over the Rabbitohs. This is tougher competition though than that situation. Going into finals, they'll get a bit of a confidence booster here. They have had a habit of winning games by small margins in this second half of the season. Lots of wins by 6 points or less. Prior to like last week, I would have said the Storm by a fairly close margin. Now I think they can win this game by a little bit more. The total is 48.5. Lean towards the overs here. 9 of the past 12 head-to-head have gone over. The Storm, 2 of their last 3 have gone over. The Broncos, their last 3 in a row have all gone over the total. 48.5 is a pretty high number, but at that point, I'd have a slight lean towards the overs. The Seagulls against the Warriors is the first game on Friday night. Manly are $1.50 minus 5.5, and the total is 46.5. The Seagulls have won 4 of the past 7 against the Warriors. There's a draw in there as well back in round 6, 2024. So that means the Warriors have only won 2 games effectively from the past 7. Manly have also won the past 3 at home against the New Zealand Warriors. Last time they met, though, was round 2 this season, and the Warriors won that game 36 points to 16 as $3.50 outsiders in that game. They were returning from the loss in America against the Raiders, which kind of doesn't look that bad now, and Manly were coming off a 30-point win against the Cowboys in the opening game. So the contradicting form lines, then we had the result in this game. You want to know how the Broncos Storm game goes first before betting into this game, because that's going to tell you a lot for the motivation for the Warriors. The Sharks obviously won't have played, but if the Broncos have lost, then the Warriors can win this game and still get 4th spot on the ladder. But if the Broncos have won, then this game doesn't really mean a great deal to either side, because the Warriors also can't be moved out of a home elimination final in the worst case scenario situation. So wait until you see what happens there. At this stage, based on the fact that I like the Storm to beat the Broncos, I do like the plus 5.5 on the Warriors. Even if you can get plus 6.5, that'd be a lot better. Manly, like, people jump on them real quick and they get hyped up really quickly. Like, About a couple of months ago, they beat the Storm in Melbourne by 2 points and then went on a 4-game losing streak, all by 14 plus margins. And then they've beaten the Dragons and Dolphins, who are hardly in good form over the past couple of weeks. And now they're $1.50 favorites against the Warriors. In fairness, like, Warriors aren't playing that great. They're coming off a home loss against the Parramatta Eels last week. They've lost 4 of their past 6 games, but there could be a lot on the line in them for this game. And even when they've lost games this season, they've generally been by close margins. If Warriors don't have anything to play for, then there is the chance Manly just win it in a blowout. Warriors just look ahead to next week. That's why that Thursday night game is so important. This season, the Seagulls have won 11 games and 10 of them have been by 13 plus points. If we break that down a little bit further and just look at the bigger margins as well, they've had 6 games they've won by 13 to 18 and 4 games by at least 19 plus. No games in the 7 to 12 margin. So generally, Manly either win by plenty or lose games. So definitely keep that in mind. You could potentially look at the Seagulls at a margin here. But if the Storm win, then the Warriors with the plus. Otherwise, Manly probably win this game at home with the Warriors' attention on next week. The total is 46.5. 12 of the past 14 head-to-head have gone over the total. The Warriors, they've had 3 of their last 4 games go over. The Seagulls, their last 2 games go over. They have been a big unders team all year, though. With the potential, like, if we're just playing for fun, I guess, in this game, then I definitely would take the over 46.5. If the Warriors need to win, then I'd have a slight lean towards the under, but probably wouldn't make it a bet. The other game on Friday night has finals implications as well. Roosters $1.36 favorites against the Rabbitohs. They opened -9.5. They're now -13.5 and into $1.24. The total is 51.5 points. The Roosters, they've won 4 of the past 5 against the Rabbitohs. This is a game they should be winning. They're clearly the better attacking side and also the better defensive side. Now, when it comes to laying 13.5 points, I'm not really keen on that. Just based off the fact that Roosters, all they need to do is win this game. It doesn't matter at all how much they win by, whether they win by 1 point or 50 points. Rabbitohs will try and put up a fight. They did beat the Roosters earlier this season as favorites back in round 5. They were $1.65 in that game, winning 20 points to 14. But prior to that, the Roosters had won 4 straight against them. Rabbitohs won 3 in a row prior to the bye. They beat the Dragons, Eels, Titans. This is obviously a lot tougher than any of those 3 games. And the Roosters, they've won 4 of their past 5. The only loss in there was against the Eels, but they've beaten the Storm, Bulldogs, Dolphins, and Seagulls during their last 5 games. At the end of the day, this is just like absolute must win for the Roosters. If they drop the game, then there's every chance the Dolphins at home beat the undermanned Canberra side on Sunday. So I think the Roosters do enough to get the win here. They should just have far too many points in them for the Rabbitohs, who are the second lowest scoring side in the competition. That 40 points they scored a couple of weeks ago was definitely a bit of an anomaly on the season. Prior to that, they'd only reached 30 points on one occasion and then ran in 40 points. Can't see that happening again here against the Roosters side, unless the Roosters completely shoot themselves in the foot. Roosters do get Sam Walker back into the side as well, so that even adds to them off of last week against the Melbourne Storm, where they're able to get that big win as well. I think the Roosters win this comfortably. From a betting perspective, would rather just take them to win the game though, as opposed to trying to play margins and that kind of thing. The total is 51.5. 5 of the past 7 head-to-head have gone under. Roosters, every game's just about going over for them. Across their previous 17 games, 13 of them have gone over the total, hardly any going under. In recent games, Rabbitohs have started to favour the under again. During the middle of the season, they had a month or so where a lot of games were going over. It's back down towards the unders with 5 of their last 7 going under. don't have a huge opinion on the total in this game. Stats wise, you'd expect a number in the mid 40s, but we've got the Rabbitohs coming off scoring 40 and the Roosters coming off scoring 40 points in each of their last games. So I can see why they've pushed this number right up. But I would lean towards the under if I had to pick a way to go here. Roosters, I don't think they're going to be like lackluster defensively or anything. Like, they don't want to give away points easily and then put themselves on the back foot. So I think they'll turn up defensively, whereas the Dragons just played no defense against the Rabbitohs a few weeks ago. And yeah, I think the Roosters will be much tougher to get past. And there's obviously the chance Rabbitohs are just really looking for the tries for Alex Johnston, and that makes their attack a lot more obvious and predictable. The first game on Saturday, the Dragons against the Panthers. Penrith opened $1.33. They're now into $1.20. And the line has moved from 8.5 to 14.5. The total is 47.5. Penrith, they've won 7 of the past 8 against the Dragons, but the Dragons have covered 4 of the last 5. Last time they met was round 21 last year, and the Panthers won that game 46-10. So quite some time ago now. We're looking at over a year since these sides have last played each other. Penrith have lost 3 in a row. They obviously rested everyone in the game last week, and prior to that, lost against the Storm and Raiders, both by 4 points, both in Golden Point. Penrith, the second half of their season has been really good. They've been very good in first halves since their bye in round 18. They've led at halftime in all 7 games where they've been at full strength or close enough to it, and just didn't lead at halftime against the Bulldogs last week. I think the Panthers will win this game and win it by plenty. I can't see the Dragons going with them. They've conceded 40 points back-to-back weeks against the Seagulls and Rabbitohs, and neither of those sides are above average, or even, well, Seagulls are about average, but they're both in the bottom half of the rankings in terms of attacking numbers. And Penrith should just have no issue finding points against this Dragons defense, which is quickly slipping away. They had a few good weeks in wet conditions where they kept some sides to low scores, but assuming it's fine conditions, which it should be, then Panthers will run up a score. The only way Penrith don't win this game by 20 plus points is if they just get through the game, make sure they tick all the boxes and get everything right going into the elimination final, where they may be traveling over to New Zealand. Regardless, though, this will be a little bit of a confidence booster going in for them. The total is 47.5. 5 of the past 7 head-to-head have gone over. The Dragons, their last 2 games have gone over. They've also been heavily favoring the over in the second half of the season. They have had 8 of their last 12 games go over the total. And then for the Penrith Panthers, they've had 3 of their past 5 go over, but have mostly favored the under on the season. Now, for this game to go over, Penrith are probably going to have to run in near enough to 40 points. So I'd lean towards the under at the 47.5. And in terms of betting the totals in this game, I'd rather take the Panthers team total to go over and the Dragons team total to go under if I was to take totals. But in that situation, you'd be better off taking the handicap on the favorite instead. The next game on Saturday is the Gold Coast Titans against the West Tigers. The Tigers opened $1.75 and were laying 1.5 points. There's been a bit of a move for the Titans, with the Tigers now out to $1.82 and the Titans into $2.02, and the total is 51.5. Gold Coast, they've won 5 of the past 7 against the West Tigers, but the Tigers, they've won the 2 most recent matches. Over round 20 this season, where they won by 1, and then round 15 last year, where they won 18 points to 10. It hasn't been long at all since these sides last played each other, and it was Tigers home. They only won by 1 point. You might remember the Adam Dewey field goal to get them over the line at Leichhardt on that Sunday afternoon. This time around on the Gold Coast, you can understand why the bookmakers have closed the gap on the 2 teams, but I just think like this is a real winnable game for the West Tigers, and getting them close to a pick'em. The Titans, they've only won 3 games since round number 3. So 3 wins, 17 losses across their past 20 games. Like the Tigers, they've lost plenty of games as well, but they have won 4 of their past 8 games when you just look at their last couple of months. So they have that bit better of winning form. So I think they can eke out a close win here, 1-12 for the Tigers. Titans do play a lot better at home than they do on the road, so you got to give them a chance from that perspective. I just think the Tigers, in what is potentially going to be another one-score game to get over the line, this is a game where you could also back the try bet, either team to win by 1-10 or 1-12 points. I think that's a good option as well. In terms of the matchups, in attack, Titans are slightly better and score more points than the Tigers. Defensively, though, the Tigers are quite a bit better, with the Titans being the worst defensive team in the competition. The other thing for this game, if the Titans win this game, there's every chance they can get themselves off the bottom of the ladder for the wooden spoon. If you look down here, they're only one game behind the Knights, and with the blowout losses Newcastle has been receiving lately, they have a -244 differential. That means if the Titans win this game and then Newcastle end up losing in the final game of the season against Parramatta, then Knights will get the wooden spoon and Titans will be one off. So there's that extra motivation for the Titans to try to win a game, but I lean towards West to get over the line in a close one. You also have 6 of the past 7 being decided by 12 or less between these two sides, so that's why I think the try bet is a good play as well. The total is 51.5. The past 5 between these two sides have all gone under the total. The Titans, they've had 4 of their last 5 go over though, and the Tigers, they've had 5 of their last 6 go under. If this was earlier in the season, then I'd absolutely say unders all day in this game. But just with it being the final game, this is one that could really turn into a shootout. You've got 2 poor defensive sides going against each other. The Tigers have points in them. They're perfectly capable of scoring in the mid to high 20s. And the Titans generally get around that 20 mark every week, regardless whether they win the game by 2 points or get blown out or lose by 2. They always get to that mark. So if this was to go under the 51.5, I think it's only going to just go under. So I'd probably stay away from it. But as I said, if it was earlier in the season, then absolutely unders. Right now, it's one of the games where I feel like it could just be an absolute shootout. The final game on Saturday night, the Bulldogs against the Sharks. Bulldogs opened $1.72. They're currently $1.56 favorites, and the handicap is 2.5 out to 4.5. The total is 44.5. The Sharks, they've won 5 of the past 7 against the Bulldogs, but similar to the Tigers, they've won the past 2 matches against the Sharks. Round 4 this season, where they won 20-6 as $4 outsiders, and then 15-14 back in round 17 last season. There is a pretty significant odds shift from the last meeting earlier this year. Obviously, Sharks were at home in that game, but to go from $1.27 out to being the clear underdog is a significant shift. Braden Trindle is named for Cronulla. He was the player with doubt around him with the ankle injury. I did think Bulldogs may rest players for this game. Like when you look, I've been watching Bulldogs games recently, they look pretty sore and like just not playing at 100%. So I thought this might have been the perfect opportunity for the Bulldogs to rest players going into finals. They obviously have the game against the Storm week 1 of the finals and had the perfect opportunity to rest everyone here, or at least give a few key players. Like Burton's been down for the count like a couple of times in recent weeks and looked like he might have picked up a major injury, and just think Bulldogs could have handled this a little bit better. Regardless though, to see such a shift from -11.5 out to +4.5, I like the Sharks here. They're the team with likely something to play for here, but it is going to depend on other results. Similar to the Warriors, we need to know how the Broncos Storm game goes on the Thursday night before betting into this game with confidence. So just wait it out. Don't rush into it. If the Storm win, then we'll be playing the Warriors and then we'll be playing the Sharks most likely as underdogs in their games. And you'll obviously want to be quick because you'll see the market shift depending on how that game is going on Thursday. But I like the Sharks here as the outsider. I think the value lies with them. They've won their last 2 games. They've won 4 of their past 7. Just an 8-point loss against the Dragons. They've scored 94 points across their past 2 games. So their attack's performing really well, and you can't say the same thing for the Bulldogs. Yes, they scored 28 against the Panthers, but basically any team in the competition should have scored 28 points against that Panther side last week. You can't get carried away with that. Prior to that, they've been kept to 14 or less in 3 or 4 games prior against Storm, Roosters, and West Tigers during that period. So the Sharks are a big chance of winning this game, so happy to take the value with them. They're the better attacking side, and Defensively, yes, Bulldogs are better, but there's not a huge discrepancy between them when you look through the overall averages on the season. The past 3 head-to-head have gone under. The total is currently 44.5. The Bulldogs have been a pretty big underside in the second half of the year. Their last 11 games, 8 of them have gone under. The Sharks, their last 2 games have both gone over, but if you zoom out a little bit more, 5 of their last 8 have gone under the total. And the game early this year had only 26 points, which is significantly less. So once again, we need to know the motivations for sides. It's something I really take into consideration. Hasn't really worked out as well this season as it has in previous years. Previous years of the NRL, teams with motivation have actually turned up and performed. This year, that hasn't been the case. This is kind of the final test for it before finals, so we'll see how it goes. The first game on Sunday, Dolphins against Raiders. The Dolphins $1.35 into $1.20. They're now 14.5 point favorites out from that -9.5, and the total is 51.5. Raiders, they've won the past 3 against the Dolphins. Redcliffe only won the first ever meeting between the two sides at KO Stadium, 20-14. The other match at this venue, Canberra won 26-25 in round 13 last year as outsiders in that one. So the underdog has won both meetings at this venue. But Canberra obviously severely undermanned in this game. If the Roosters lose their game against the Rabbitohs, which kind of seems unlikely, but if it happens, then I think you can definitely take the Dolphins with a bit more confidence than looking at $1.20 about them right now. If Dolphins don't need to win this game and they're already out of contention for the top 8, then there's a chance Raiders could even grab. But I think at home, Dolphins should be able to and should be good enough to win this game. They are the highest scoring team in the NRL this season, averaging 28.7 points a game. It's just their defense that's been shocking over the past month or so. If you look through their recent form, they've lost 3 of their last 4. They've given up at least 30 points in 4 straight games, but have also scored at least 28 in their last 3. I generally don't like these games where teams are playing a half and half squad and that kind of thing. So this is one to just approach with a bit of caution. I think you can take overs with confidence about the Dolphins at the moment. I think probably the best bet in this game is the Dolphins team total to go over, because regardless if Canberra score points or not, I think the Dolphins will find points themselves. And I think that's going to be the best way of playing this game, especially if it's that would be my best advice right now with the unknown about the Roosters Rabbitohs. The total at 51.5. The Dolphins are likely going to have to score around 34, 36 points to cover their team total, which is pretty high. In fine conditions, though, in the afternoon, it should be okay. And then the final game of the 2025 regular season, Parramatta against Newcastle. The Eels open $1.28, they're into $1.24, and the line is 11.5 out to 13.5. And the total point is 48.5. Parramatta, they've won 7 of the past 8 against Newcastle, and their last 3 wins against them, there was the win by the Knights in their last year, but their last 3 wins, Parramatta have beaten them by at least 22 points. Earlier this year in Newcastle, round 11, the Eels won 28-6 as $1.85 favourites, so wasn't much between them in the odds in that game. Parramatta come into this game in not bad form for a team outside the top 8. They've won 4 of their past 6 games, and the 2 losses, a 4-point loss against South Sydney and a 6-point loss against Melbourne. Can't really complain with those. They've also beaten the Warriors and Roosters across their past 2 games, which that win over the Roosters certainly looks really strong right now. I do expect Parramatta to be winning this game. I think they should just be far too good for this Newcastle side, which has definitely given up on the season. They've conceded 38 or more points in 5 consecutive games has Newcastle. They've lost 8 in a row. They've lost their last 5 by at least 24 points. So there's every chance. Parramatta haven't been a team to win games by big margins this year. Their biggest win was by 22 points against the Knights. So this is a perfect situation for them to get to that range again. Their next biggest wins were against Manly and the Roosters, each by 20 points. So I think Parramatta can win this by a big margin. So don't really love laying like high handicaps, but this is one where you could also attack the alternate lines, take a big handicap as Newcastle on the road here, Parramatta at home are returning from New Zealand, but I don't think it's really going to matter. Final game of the season, Eels to win big and just give their fans something to end the season on high at home. The total is 48.5. Parramatta last week went over. Their 5 games prior to that have all gone under against pretty good defensive sides for the most part outside of the game against the Cowboys. And then for Newcastle, their recent form leading in from the total, they've had 5 of their last 6 games all go over. For this game to go over, you have 4 of the past 5 head-to-head going over, but it's going to take the Eels to score close enough to 40 points. So similar to the Dolphins and similar to the Panthers game, you're better off taking the Eels team total to go over and not need to rely on Newcastle to score. The Knights probably will find around 10 to 12 points like they generally score. They get 2 tries every game, give or take. That's what they'll probably get once again in this game, and not a great deal more, as Parramatta's defense has been significantly better in recent times. They haven't given up more than 22 points in their last 6 games, and they've played the Broncos, Storm, Cowboys, Rabbitohs, Roosters, Warriors during that period. So quite a few teams that have points in them as well. So that's how I'd approach betting on the final round of the season. All my final bets are in the NRL bet finders, which you can view through the link in the description. Really appreciate you guys watching and following along throughout the season. Hopefully you found these videos insightful. I'll keep on posting them right through the finals. The try scorer video will be out tomorrow before the Broncos Storm game, so stay tuned for that. Just make sure you have notifications on, you subscribe, so then you're notified as soon as that video is out. It will be out late in the afternoon tomorrow, so a couple of hours before kickoff of the first game. We've had really good run recently with the try scorers, so definitely looking to keep that going. Other things going on, we've got the American football season, the NFL starting on Friday. Week 1 gets underway. Last year was my best season of the NFL. I've been betting it for over 10 years, and last year was my best year. So I'll be following the same strategy on it again this year with a couple of tweaks. If you want to follow the plays for that, I'll put the link to that in the description. And then Spring Carnival got underway today. In fact, we still have a few races left to run, but once again this year I'm doing the 50 unit profit guarantee for the Spring Carnival. So if we don't make at least 50 units, any new members who join throughout September qualify for that. You just have to stay a member through the spring. And if we don't make at least the 50 units profit, then you get all of summer completely for free. Last year, those new members who joined in September got the summer for free because we fell half a unit short. So I honored the deal of everyone gets the 3 months for free. And during that following 3 months, we made 125 units. So it was 175 units combined across the spring and summer. So 175 units profit times by whatever your average bet is. That's how much money you would have made across that period. So if you're betting on horse racing, if you're going to be betting on the big races through the spring, definitely follow the racing show. This is everything I'm betting on horse racing. It's the most profitable thing I've bet on over all these years. It's the easiest thing to make the most money out of. I'm really excited to do the 50 unit guarantee. It allows you to just follow it. Like we always have the 100 unit guarantee that if you don't make at least 100 units in your first year, but this just shortens the time frame to these 3 months. Lots of racing every Wednesday, Saturday. There's also 5 Friday night meetings during this period as well. So all of those will be covered Australia-wide. Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide, and Perth. Every meeting is covered for all the metro races. You get to know all the right races to bet into, which horse to back in those races, and the video like similar to these ones that I do for the NRL, but specifically for those horses I'm backing, and I also go through races I'm not going to bet into and share with you the reasons why. It's not just the selections that make you profit, it's also learning and understanding why I'm backing certain horses and not backing others. The link to that is in the description. Definitely check it out. Hope you're having a great week. I'll see you guys in the try scorer video coming up soon.